This media is brought to you by Polyscope.
In the realm of tomorrow, where techniques mind, we ponder, we dream.
Good morning, everyone. It is show 1080, Think Future. Thanks for joining us. So, I've been on the internet since around 1992, and let me tell you, a lot of things have changed since 1992. Tons of things have changed since 1992. First of all, one of the things that's really changed a lot is that we've really gotten away from the original purpose of the internet, which was the peer-to-peer communications between one person and another, direct communication between one person and another, when we built all these intermediaries between people and these times. And if you go back over the history of the internet from 1992 and how many years it's been, I mean, that's around 1992, 1995. That's kind of when, so what is that, 30 years? It's been 32 years or so since the internet's been commercialized. Now, prior to that, of course, it's been around. Al Gore invented it in the 60s, right? In 1992, 1993, when it first started getting commercialized, then we had this interesting wild west of open internet where anybody could connect to anybody else and you didn't have those intermediaries, which I already said. But during all this period of time, like if you go back over the history of the internet, there have been many, many really interesting concepts that failed at the time that they failed. And this is one of the things that I think people have to remember is that success that we see today, success in business, startup success, a lot of the time has to do with timing. It's 100% timing, because more than likely you have a great idea. So as a startup founder, you come up with a great idea, and you have an excellent idea, and you think to yourself, this is a great idea. I know it's a problem for me. It's a problem for other people. I do a little market research. I think I can see that this is going to be something that people will want. There's a demand, and you go ahead and launch. And the problem is that most of the time, if you're a forward-thinking individual, even a little bit like myself, and I'm kind of a futurist, so I can think for 10, 20, 30, 40 years into the future, you will, if you're any kind of an innovator, you are a future thinker. You are a forward thinker. You think about things that will happen, not are happening, right? So what you do is you come up with an idea and you think, oh, maybe this is the right time to launch this idea because nobody else has it yet. And so there's going to be a demand. I can tell that there's going to be a demand for this idea. So you launch it and then you wait and you promote and you market and you sell, and it takes a lot longer than you think. Everything takes longer than you think. That's another one of my sayings. And if you can survive long enough to be able to wait for the market to meet you, because this is what usually happens. You're out there and the market's over here and the market hasn't met you yet. If you can hang on long enough, if you can last long enough, the market will eventually meet you and you'll become successful, right? 9 times out of 10, startup founders are too early and they can't last until they get to the point where the market meets them. Now, some of them are smart enough to pivot to the market, but others are a little more driven and they think this is the idea I'm going to go down with, and they end up going down with the idea. Anyways, from this past littered with failures, every now and then I'm going to start going back and pulling out an idea or two which I think was a really good idea at the time, and it was an awesome idea at the time. And some of these are well known, like things like StumbleUpon. But some of these things are a little less known. And the one I'm going to talk about today is called Third Voice. Now, if you have been around for a while and you've been on the internet for a while, you may remember Third Voice. But if you want to go check it out, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And we'll talk a little bit about how the thing worked. But it was very controversial at the time. Because I remember the way it worked was that you would go to a website, and in the sidebar of your browser would be comments on that website, almost like graffiti for the website. And because these comments for the website were hosted elsewhere, they were hosted on Third Voice's website, then the people who ran the main website couldn't do anything about the commentary on the site. So you would be surfing to, I don't know, some website. Let's say you're at the FedEx website. So you're on the FedEx website. You see the FedEx website in the main part of your browser. And then on the right, there would be a bar from the Third Voice website, which would have all sorts of comments about the specific page that you happen to be on. So people could go in there and they'd leave comments on FedEx. And these businesses that have these comments, it was almost like I said, it was almost like leaving graffiti on a website. People would complain like crazy about these comments that were on the website because they were, and some of them could be really nasty and negative and positive, and they I think they sued Third Voice into or it was gone, or they couldn't figure out a business model or whatever. But they basically allowed people to comment on websites in the same browser as the website itself. But because the data was hosted elsewhere, then there's nothing that the main company could do about it. Now, there was tons of controversy around this. This is a huge issue, and it might have driven them out of the marketplace. But if you ask me, I think that's a really good idea, because what do we have today? We have situations where you're sitting on a website and you're looking at the website, you're looking at a web page, or you're looking at a product, and you don't have any kind of independent analysis by other users of what this really is. For example, go to Amazon Reviews. If you go to Amazon Reviews, you can easily look at, hundreds and hundreds of reviews that are all 5-star, 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 but they could all be spam. They could all be fake. You never know. But if we had a service like Third Voice where you could actually pull it off into a different website and not allow Amazon to add or remove reviews. Now, you could conceivably say that Third Voices could also be similarly compromised, but I think having that independent voice directly on at the same time as you're there might make it more helpful, because I think that kind of service would be incredibly useful, because you could be looking at something, and instead of the review site, or because a lot of these reviews are now integrated into the websites, maybe those reviews are not unbiased, right? So maybe we could use this kind of Third Voice type website that allows us to comment and lay graffiti on websites saying that this is good, this is bad, this is excellent, this is not so good, but host it off the site so it'd be a little less biased. So that's one of the many examples over the last 30 years of interesting ideas which may be time to bring back. That's it from me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.
Pixels and philosophies merge and mold, a future untold, unseen.